self-awareness. Carmelo Anthony I killed for years because he forced to trade to New York, forcing New York to trade pieces away. So when he got to New York, they didn't have any pieces.
Right.
That's lacking self-awareness. McVay understands the temperature of the room here. I think he's probably rolling his eyes a little bit at some of this stuff.
Yeah, but I think he also wants, it seems like he wants the people around him to be elevated too.
Right.
So, he's saying all the right things. And finally, not everyone is happy about Adam Gase being the next Jets head coach, but Alshon Jeffrey thinks he could work with Sam Darnold. They were together in Chicago in 2015, and he told New Jersey Advanced Media his impact will be huge. Knowing the Adam Gase that I know and the potential that the Jets are looking for, I'm pretty sure Sam is going to be a Super Bowl MVP. He can win a Super Bowl. Darnold will be an MVP in this league. Working with Gase, I expect big things from those two.
It's just funny. Does everybody get, Cleveland loves their coaching hire. Arizona loves their coaching hire. The Bengals are going to hire a 35-year-old. Green Bay just hired a guy who's called play for 1 year. Adam Gase has been an NFL head coach, has gotten to the playoffs, gave Peyton Manning his greatest year, was the quarterback coach for Tebow during his winning streak. Nick Saban and Peyton Manning called on his behalf because Saban took him when he was a 21-year-old snotty-nosed kid down in LSU and gave him all sorts of responsibility because Saban thought, who the hell's this bright kid? Does everybody get that Adam Gase is going to work? This is not like a newbie. He's a 40-year-old that took the dysfunctional Dolphins to the playoffs with Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, I didn't love Gase's tenure in Miami, obviously, because it didn't exactly work out the way that I wanted it to. But you are right about the playoffs, and the facts remain that he was with Peyton Manning when he had his best year. He greatly improved Jay Cutler. Every situation doesn't work for every person. Maybe Miami just wasn't the situation for him.
By the way, Belichick couldn't get the quarterback right in Cleveland, got fired. Pete Carroll couldn't get quite the quarterback right maybe in New England. You start looking at coaches that get fired in this league that we perceive to be good coaches. It's generally the same thing. They couldn't quite get the quarterback right. Herm Edwards told me this years ago. Said, Colin, if I got the right quarterback, I wouldn't be a broadcaster. I'd be a coach because it pays more and it's a lot of fun. And coaches want to coach, not broadcast.
Right.
So Gase and Darnold is going to work. Now, Super Bowls, I don't know. But the idea that all the other four young teams love their hire, and they're like 33, 35, never been a coach, and you're not.
I don't think the age has anything to do with it. I just think that
he's got experience.
It's experience, and Gase has it. So we'll see. Yeah. Everyone's excited about all their hires.
Yeah, Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Let's bring him in. We got a guy that knows all about Sean McVay. DEANGELO HALL spent time with him in Washington with the Redskins, 14 NFL seasons. He was a multiple-time Pro Bowler. So McVay, by the way, he was an assistant at 22. He was a coach at one point at 22, which is absurd.
But that was on accident now, Colin.
What's that?
He was a coach on accident. You talking about him when he was a position coach?
Well, no, when he was a 22-year-old coach, where was that at? At 22, he was 22 Oakland with John Gruden.
QC, I think, in Oakland. I thought you meant the time he stumbled upon being the tight ends coach. He was our QC starting off in Washington, and we had our tight ends coach, John Embry, get the head job at Colorado.
So they moved him up.
And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
So now, did you know, now everybody knows he's smart now, but when you were there, you're doing your own thing. You're a defensive guy. You're a Pro Bowl player. It's not like you're spending a lot of time. But was there talk that who's boy wonder over here?
Yeah. And there was a couple of guys like that on that staff. It was Sean McVay was on that staff. Matt LaFleur was on that staff. Mike McDaniel, who you're starting to hear a little bit about, who's Shanahan's run game coordinator, he was on that staff. Aubrey Pleasant, the DB coach for the Rams, was on that staff. Raheem Morris, who we already knew a whole lot about. And so it was a slew of really, really, really good coaches that you knew they were good coaches because most young coaches are intimidated by everyone else around them. So if you're an offensive coach, you really don't say anything to the defensive guys, especially the corners or the DBs, because they can be a little bit, they could go off at any given moment, DBs. And so, most offensive guys, coaches don't really say anything to the DBs. They kind of stay in their position groups, but these guys would mingle amongst everyone on the roster. You'd catch Sean over here picking my brain about coverage. Hey, so what were you guys in on that particular coverage? Now, why did you come off? Trying to understand why we did this, or why did I see, why did I see this play this way instead of the way
he was
a
curious information seeker.
Yeah, and I'm telling and I'm doing the same thing. I'm like, Sean, so why did he throw this ball? Well, when your back was turned, even though you didn't mean to turn your back, because he saw your back turn, he thought that was open. So, we would always all of us meeting of the minds, it kind of felt like. And so, yeah, as a young coach, you knew all those guys were just cut different, because I had been around most coaches who didn't act like these guys.
When they were 29, 30 years old.
Yeah.
By the way, I said earlier, anger and resentment comes from one place. Expectations. So if you have realistic expectations in life, you don't get mad. Okay? If Dak Prescott is Alex Smith, you were actually, about 2 months ago, you came on this show and you said, I like Dak. He's Alex Smith. And I said today, if I gave you Alex Smith's NFL career, 8 straight winning seasons, 3 Pro Bowls, 5 division titles, you would say, if you're a Cowboy, here it is. No, I want you to look at this. 8 straight winning seasons, 3 Pro Bowls, 3 division titles, 5 playoff appearances. If I told Cowboy fans today, that's going to be Dak in a decade, wouldn't they take that?
Yeah, I would hope so.
So my point is, as long as you realize that you'll be disappointed in the NFC Championship, you'll be disappointed at some point because he won't vertically carry you to big wins.
Yeah, but, I don't know if you'll necessarily be disappointed, because Alex Smith, Dak Prescott, they won't command the $33 million or the $30 to $35 million that seems to hamper a lot of these rosters from a personnel standpoint. When you commit so much money to the quarterback position, it makes it very hard to put really, really, really good players around him. You can put some good players. You can hit on some draft picks. You might even can get some guys who play way above their expectations. But
you're not going to keep your own free agent.
Khalil Mack, to get a Aaron Donald, to get a Von Miller, to get these impactful defensive players or even other players around guys offensively, it's hard. Just think, if you're paying a quarterback $33 million, then you go out and get a number 1 receiver, you're paying $15 million too. That's a lot of money for 2 positions. And then you got to somehow get a left tackle to be really good. Then you have to, put other guys on that offensive line, and then not even talking about defensively what you have to do. Either one side of the ball is going to be really young and you're going to invest draft picks on them, or you're just going to have a really good quarterback, kind of like Green Bay's trying to do it. A really good quarterback, a great quarterback, and good players around him, not great players around him. And I think Dallas will have a chance because they'll be able to get Dak for a bargain, and they'll be able to put really great players around him. And so he doesn't need to be great. I think he'll still be a really good player. And like you said, you saw those numbers. Alex Smith's a really good player.
Alex won a lot of games.
He's won a lot of games. And so, I just think that's the formula. And you see teams who are trying to load up now while they have that rookie quarterback on those, minimum money contracts, because they know at some point, I can't let him walk. I have to pay him. And so, you got to get it while you can.
All right, I'm going to go through all 4 games. Give me your thoughts on each. Colts at the Chiefs. Your gut feeling is...
I think the Chiefs win this game, but I think it's a lot closer than people think. I think the Colts defense is for real. They're so aggressive. They play fast. The one knock on them is they don't play as much man. They play a lot of zones, and it can be good. It can be bad. Patrick Mahomes is a guy, though, that can pick apart zones. We've seen him do it time and time again. And those little fast receivers and Tyreek Hill and some of those other guys, Kelsey, running down the seam, if you don't have bodies on those guys and you let them just run through zones, it's going to make for a long day. But I think Andrew Luck and knowing he gets the opportunity to go against this Kansas City defense, they haven't been great so far this season. But I think they'll get a little bit better playing in Arrowhead, knowing all the history of, postseason losses there. I think they'll be amped up. But, I ultimately think Kansas City offense is just going to be a little bit too much.
Good call. Cowboys at the Rams, gut feeling.
Rams.
You really like confidently.
I do. I just think that the Cowboys are a really good football team. They're young. If I was a head coach or if I was a GM, this would be the roster I wanted because it's so young.
Look at this.
Talented.
DeAngelo, listen to this. They're the first playoff team without a starter over 30 in 31 years. So not only are they young.
They don't have one starter over 30?
Sean Lee no longer starting.
Okay, Sean Lee doesn't,
30.
Okay.
And he's not starting anymore. Wow. And they got his replace. They're the youngest NFL good team in 3 decades.
Wow.
So when you say they're young, it's like, yeah. No, they're historically young.
They're really young. I mean, they're still trying to learn and figure it out. And you know, I ultimately think Dak Prescott can win football games and will win football games. But, you know, right now he's still learning how to really be an elite quarterback.
Right.
And so I think it you know, their team and that offense will go as Zeke goes.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Rams probably aren't built to stop the run. When you have a converted safety playing Mike linebacker in what's the kid from?
Jalen, who are you talking about, the Rams or the Cowboys?
I'm talking about the Rams.
Jalen Smith or Van Der Esch?
No, I'm talking about the Rams. Gosh, the guy from Tampa.
Oh, Mark Barron.
Mark Barron, exactly. He's not built to take on ISO blocks, and, you know, Zeke's bigger than him. Most Mike linebackers are normally bigger than the running backs. And so the Rams aren't necessarily built to stop the run, but I think they'll drop more safeties in the boxes. They'll do certain things scheme-wise to prevent Zeke and that offense from running the ball and ultimately put all the pressure and the onus on Dak Prescott. And, you know, I just think the Rams will be a little bit too much. A lot of their late season mishaps have been self-inflicted. They've been Jared Goff, instead of taking that check down that's wide open right here, teams knowing they want to go deep, is 2 guys on the post, and he's still throwing it. And those are things that I know Sean and that offense has been coaching them up to see, like, hey, look, you can't always take the big shot. I know it was open early in the season, but teams now are starting to play for it. They know that's what we want to do in our offense. Let's hit this check down. Let's give the ball to these guys who can make plays in space and let them make the plays. And so Jared Goff hadn't been doing that as much in the second half of the season, but I think, you know, having this week off and watching film and just really seeing the mistakes he's made and, you know, some self-inflicted mistakes that offense has made, I think the Rams will be all right, and I think they'll come out with this win.
Stick around, come back. I'll have you look at the Chargers and the Patriots and the Eagles and the Saints. It's a wild weekend, a blazing 5, top of next hour. Albert Breer, Eric Dickerson, Greg Jennings, Jason McIntyre. We're packed in.